Hello, my name is Katya Syta. I'm one of co-founder CUTOUT Collage project, and I am artist. I am a curator and art therapist. I have many workshops where I after, and the most important and the most famous my collage workshop is Vase. In Slovenia, I will present two my popular workshops, Vase and Consequence. And the main message that I want to share with people, it's about independence and freedom. And for me, important is that people knows who they are, because it helps to do right things in this world. And Vase, it's a workshop where we do not use scissors, we use only hands and work in a full independent atmosphere. And and try to find them. Try to find themselves in science that you will see in magazines. Yeah. Second workshop is Consequence, where we will work with the accidents elements that will start for moving our art, and see that everything can be art if we will see it in. If we will see it, if we will ready to see it, because sometimes art comes not from idea, sometimes art comes from accident moments, and we will learn it on my workshop. The ideas came from the famous artist in Ukraine, Desyatiruchka, that use in such I don't know, style, but it's still not popular even for him. But I tried to popularize this because I see in it future and very important message, like see art in everything. I want to say about me some special things, that I am mystic. That's why most of my workshop mystical, because for me art can be like a language and maybe instrument for changing this world in the better way, or making balance, because even in wartime, we have balance only because we do art. And maybe my special moments in what kind of I'm working, it's that I don't use scissors, like I said before, and I try to learn how to work with it and other people, because sometimes it helps to understand that you can do everything only by hand, and you don't need many things for making art. When you, like for example, you stay in a place that you did not accept, and in one moment you realize that you receive muse or you receive some wishes to do something great, and you don't have nothing, only your hands. And after my workshops, you will do it easy, because you will not think about instruments, you will be think only about expression. Expression is, I think, it's one of the most important things, because nature always express in natural scenes, and we sometimes forget that we are how we really need to express themselves, and how it's help us to communicate with inside of us, and it's help to create good things near, because when you're creating something through the love, everything becomes better. Yeah, and what important things I would like to say more, maybe that I'm glad that I'm here. I'm glad that I'm in this such wonderful space, and I can express myself here, and people want to see what we do. And I'm with big heart to share. I'm happy to share it, and I would like that people know that if you know who you are, you can create your reality, because if you don't know who you are, it's not possible to do.
Hello, my name is Ferček. I'm a textile artist and art therapist, and I'm working mostly with women of different life stages. As a part of a design collective called Olup, I work with two others textile artists on participatory and socially engaged projects, mostly working with textile materials, but also others. In my therapeutic practice, I use also nature-based art therapy. So I took my users, clients into the nature, collect materials there, and let them be inspired by the nature. In these processes, nature is also co-therapist at the event. The workshop that I lead is titled Create Your Own Powerful Being. I will lead it at Kokra Canyon. This is river in the middle of Ljubljana, right around the corner actually. We will go in the nature, and we will get in tune with nature, our senses. We will connect with water, earth, air, sun, and greens. And then we will collect some elements from nature and create a sculpture. And the sculpture will present actually the sculpture will be symbol of our needs that we have right now. Working in nature will strengthen our connection with the nature, with oneself, and we will also, at the end of the workshop, we will feel gratitude for what the nature gives us, and we will get an idea that nature is always there for us, that we can always go there and get benefits out of it and connect with it. The workshop will strengthen our connection with nature. At the end of it, we will also feel gratitude for what the nature was offering to us. We will also feel calm, mindful, peaceful. We will slow down during the activity, and we will, at the end, we will have in our hands a little sculpture that can be taken to our home, and the sculpture will remind us and support us at in our daily life. The sculpture is transitional object that holds in its body all our thoughts, wishes, feelings, and emotions, which we feel when we created it. So when we took it in our home and put it in the place where we see it every day, it will keep for us the thought that we embody them in the moment of creation. This is my powerful being that I created 2 years ago on the workshop led by very famous art therapist Katya. And it was a very deep process for me. I created a bird which makes a sound, and I embody in it the strength that I can set up the boundaries in my life and easily say no. So this bird reminds me on that. One day I was looking at the Google for the birds which disappeared from Slovenia, and I got a photo of big, very special bird which was exactly like this one, and I stay completely speechless.
Hello there, my name is Matija Samec, and as a certified forest therapy practitioner and forest bathing guide, I'm committed to helping people improve their health and well-being through direct contact with nature and all the health benefits and pleasure that can bring. So what is forest bathing? Forest bathing is a nature-based well-being practice, a way of interacting with nature that can be used both as a health promotion and disease prevention activity. On the other hand, forest therapy interventions can be used for specific therapeutic contexts to help and to complement existing medical treatment. In our context, it's important to point out that available evidence shows that people who suffered from trauma, like war victims or soldiers with post-traumatic stress disorder, can really benefit from forest therapy interventions. And such programs can be of tremendous help to help them cope with stress levels and the mental health problems that arise in such adverse circumstances. Adding such nature connection activities and moving our practice to natural spaces doesn't only help our patients, clients, or users, it's also very supportive for the practitioner as well. It can help prevent burnout and mitigate some of the vicarious stress that we get working with people. My workshop today is titled Creative Moments in the Garden, and my main message is that nature can be a very strong ally in therapy and offer many opportunities for creative expression. The workshop took place in Kranj's horticultural garden, and the participants were invited to take a step out of the everyday rational mind, open their senses, and be part of an immersive experience of the garden environment. What this means in practice is that we get up close and personal with nature. It means taking a very close look, a taste, a smell of all the natural elements that we come in contact with. All the different plants, trees, animals, soil, and different materials that we open ourselves to, that we expose ourselves to nature and thusly receive its health benefits and effects. And this is how communication with nature works. We ask with our senses, how does this feel? How does this smell? And the sensations, the feelings, and the thoughts that we receive as a response are the answers that nature provides. After each activity, participants are invited to join me in a sharing circle. Now, this circle is designed in a way that it is witnessing each other's experience and not a discussion group, for instance. This way, we make a safe space that allows for connection and social inclusion. A safe space where people can come into contact with themselves, their feelings, and those and that around them. So, Forest baths usually include some type of artistic expression in nature. So today we dedicated most of the time to a land art experiment. Participants were invited to choose 5 different pieces of natural material and take a space and just build something with them without any predetermined shape or meaning. After this, we met at the sharing circle, and after that, we made a collective artwork. We did this by having a big canvas that we placed the objects one at a time. Now, before placing an object, the participants could add a meaning to it, something that they wished to share with the group. For instance, playfulness, strength, calm, peace, and 50 other meanings that made a very emotionally strong and cohesive art piece in the end. After the workshop, participants reported on very nice feelings that varied from calm to playfulness to hope. And for me personally, it was a very fulfilling experience that I am very thankful for. With my workshop, I hope to have inspired participants to include natural spaces and elements more both into their private lives as well as their professional practice, and share nature with their close ones and the world in general. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Annete Sagal. I'm a co-founder of CUTOUT Collage art project, and here in the Layer House, within the framework of Beneath the Surface, I had a workshop called Auto Portrait. In the workshop, I used collage as a main medium and also worked with metaphorical associative cards, which are the cards with different images that you look at and you have associations with. And I also used essential oils to have the aromatherapy. So we had a little meditation, then we had aromatherapy, then we proceeded to create collages, auto portraits of ourselves. And it doesn't mean that you have to create specifically a face, but the participants were asked to pick some images that represent themselves, whether it's the color or it's a texture or it's an animal or a flower or whatever they could find in the magazines. This workshop is great for adults and for children as well. It doesn't necessarily fits to any age. So it can be used for everybody, and it's a great way to explore yourself, explore your needs, maybe what you want, or sometimes explore your traumas and fears. And if that is the case, participants are also able to turn it around and work with their fears and their traumas by asking themselves how I would like to feel, how I would like to be instead of this state, what I would like to do and how I would like to feel. And then they can look for another image that represents that, or they can draw it as well. They can include painting or drawing into the collage and change it so that their cognitive mind sees it and also changes its state of being. It was a very great time with the professionals here. I had an honor to present this and to work with the people. We shared, after creation, we shared the stories of the collages and what they meant to each participant, which was also very intimate. Somebody cried, which is also normal because we can feel some missing of the home, some melancholy and things like that. But overall, everybody was satisfied, and I was very satisfied with the outcome. Thank you.
My name is Oljana Karpus. I am an art therapist from Ukraine. I organize art therapy groups for women. In my work, I mix modern psychology with traditional practice from different countries. My groups are for women who want to solve their inner problems with creative methods. In my workshops, they can use art therapy to deal with challenges and difficulties in life. I moved to Slovenia in March 2022 because of the war in Ukraine. I understand the problem women face in such situations. Soon after arriving, I started volunteering with Red Cross. In 2 years, I organized 30 support psychology meetings for Ukrainian refugee women. I also organized some art therapy groups for women. Today, I want to tell about my workshop called 10 Arms Doll. Its workshop came from my own experience. I manage several projects at once and I have many plans. It is hard to stay focused on what isn't important. It made me nervous and stressed. One day I put a note with my yearly plans and situated it on the mirror where I can see it every day. It helped, but I want a more beautiful way to keep track my goals. I found solution. It is traditional Ukrainian doll from fabric called 10 arms doll. Traditional dolls were a kind of art therapy of our great-grandmother. 100 years ago, every Ukrainian woman made these dolls for different life events. The 10 arms doll used to help with chores. 10 arms doll has 10 arms, with each pair for an important task. When we make doll, we put our goals in each pair of arms. We don't just make a doll, we turn our goals into a real object. The doll helps us remember our goals and serves as a visual reminder. When we make doll from fabric, we use fine motor skills. Fine motor skills improve focus, thinking, and feelings. Small movements with hands and fingers helps us concentrate. Repetitive actions reduce stress. Also, making things together help us connect with others. My workshop 10 Arms Doll is for women who want to put their lives in order.
Hello, everyone. My name is Annette. Thank you all for coming. Today is going to be not a lecture, but more of a talk and sharing about us and what we do. And I will start with our project. So it's called CUTOUT Collage Art Project. It's the first art project in Ukraine about contemporary collage. We started in 2022 or 21 when we have met the three of us, me, Katya, and Oljana, and we all shared a passion for collage. And we decided to create an exhibition, and it grew into a festival because we also planned workshops, lectures, performance, and so in 2021 we had two exhibitions of the festival in the Museum of Kiev History, which were presented 11 international artists, and in the gallery called Ra, where we presented Ukrainian artists and the winners of the Ukrainian Open Call. And then 2 months after that, we have opened a collage studio in Ukraine, in Kiev, which is on the second picture here. So this is our art space where we have our residents also working, come to work, and we have exhibitions of their art, ours as well. So this is the Museum of Kiev history, where we presented the international artist, and the second one is the Ra Gallery, where was the Ukrainian artist. And this is the pictures. But this is the pictures from the opening of the studio. And since the opening of the studio, every month we had exhibitions of our residents. We had some DJs, we had some drinks and snacks for it. So everybody would also come and create their own collage. It was for free, and it was a very nice event and gathering of friends, and friends would bring other friends. So it was, our community was growing, people were joining our residency as well. So we started with 8 people, now we have 22 people in our residency. And in December 2021, we started planning for the second festival, which was meant to happen in 2022. We started the open call, we started receiving applications for it. And we also decided that we want to, with our studio, we want to go outside and present our exhibitions in other galleries and museums, because our studio is more like an underground venue where there's this only small group of people, and we wanted to show it to more people in more prestige places. So we decided to do that. And in February 22 of 2022, we opened our first exhibition outside of the studio. It was in a gallery called The Artist. And it lasted 2 days, and then the full-scale invasion started, and everything was put on pause. This is how the studio looked after one of our residents, who is responsible for the flowers and keeping the flowers alive. 1 month after the residency, she's like, I need to go and water the flowers or they will die. So she went into the studio, she took all of the frames out because we were afraid that they might fall and damage. So all of them are here, safely stored. And then she took all the artworks out and sent them to Europe so we could have some exhibitions there. And we were really stressed and in a position where we did not know what's going to happen to us and to our project. And we just started to expand and have these plans and the festival and everything. And now it's all uncertain what we should do. And we were really afraid that this is the end of the project. It was really sad to know that. And then I shared a message on our social media to international community that we are here, that we have, everything is on pause, but all the applications that we received so far, we know them, we remember them, and whenever we will be able to continue, we will also include those applications into the festival. And the response from international collage community was very amazing. People supported us a lot, and it meant for us that we are needed, we are seen, and a lot of projects invited us to have exhibitions. So in 2022, despite of that we couldn't do anything in Ukraine for a while, we still managed to have 5 exhibitions in Europe. Which we weren't present there. It was only distant communications with everybody, but still we had went to ALC Collage Festival, which is in Alicante, Spain. We had another project in Spain, Denmark, Germany, and Israel. And the other one is Slovenia, which we were invited also to Chaos Festival in 2022. And we had just on the street there, we had the exhibition of the CUTOUT Collage Studio residents and CUTOUT lovers. CUTOUT lovers are like a community that we also founded they're not the residents, but they also collage artists in some way, and they want to participate in the exhibition, so they can apply, be present as well. So we had this, and this is how we first met online with Marusha and Danaya and the whole Chaos team, and so we were present here before we were physically here. And this gave us power and strength to work on our art projects again. And then we, by the end of the summer 2022, the cultural life started to come back to Kyiv. And there started to be new exhibitions, new cultural events. Every event is a fundraiser for either for the army or for the kids or for the animals or for some kind of charity that needed some funding to support them. So even now, whenever we go to some event, if we buy a ticket, it's automatically either 100% or some percentage of it is a donation that goes to charity. So this allows us to have a life and have cultural, meaningful events and still be able to help our army protect us and live the life. And we started doing in Ukraine very important projects. One of those were a project about Holodomor in Ukraine. The Holodomor Museum, they contacted us and they asked us to create just collages for their website, just for have the visual info. And we were like, no, let's do a project, let's do exhibition because it's important and we can make it. And they really liked the idea, but they were a little bit hesitant if somebody will come because like Holodomor is very hard topic, and usually people will rather not go to the museum and look at the space like this. But when we went in there, we saw that it's very like even the design of the space is very nice. It's like a rounded room. Please come in. It's like a rounded room where the projectors are on the walls, and the whole like round space it has the projection. They had a story, so you can walk around and you look at it. And of course, most of the items from the museum they were hidden, and they only had pictures on these little stands. So they will preserve all the things. And we decided to have a digital exhibition. So they only had limited space for the physical artworks, and we had like 4 columns of the artworks. But the idea was to create animated collage about Holodomor, and it was called Parallels. So it was about not combining, but seeing how the atrocities that Russia had done during the Holodomors back in the years in 32, 33 and before, and the atrocities they were doing today. And so they were really similar, and we decided to show this in collage. And it was the time that the electricity blackouts started happening because Russia had damaged the infrastructure, so we did not have any electricity. So the decision of the museum director was to switch off all of the projectors because they were taking a lot of energy. And it was like the whole purpose of our project was on relying on these projectors. So at the opening, we only had 1 remote projector that had been shown only on one wall, but still it happened. And we had the opening without any light. It was only the smoke generator that was having like two lights and the projector working. And so people, like, we were in the darkness. There was also winter, so people would find the entrance to the museum in the darkness. So it was very tricky, but still a lot of people came. It was more than 100 visitors at the day of the opening. And the museum was very satisfied with it and happy that people actually came to the exhibition. And during the exhibition, they would also visit. So it was very successful project for us, and we did a couple of those like projects, meaningful projects that we would show something important, something that is painful, and something that needs to be talked through the art. And it came out. It's a very hard topic. It's a very painful topic, but the artworks came out really powerful and beautiful in a way. And we knew we were relying on our artists and how they work, but it was still amazing to see the outcome of all of it. And now to the art therapy part. When we started the project in 2021, we started doing collage workshops. And we all have noticed how people would come with one state of mind and how they would change and develop by the end of it, and how it was therapeutically effective for them. And this made me want to go and complete a course in art therapy, because I am a diplomat by my education. So I don't have any training in psychology, and all that I've done in workshops were just like by senses. I just followed what I feel, and now I wanted to have some base to conduct my classes. So in 2022, in September, I went to the classes, and in May 2023, I graduated certified as a art therapist. So these are art workshops that we had held in our studio. The first one is for adults in our studio, that one, and this one was for the teenagers, which was conducted by Katya, Syta. Those are the teenagers who lived at the frontline areas, and now they have been evacuated and come to Kiev. So she's working with them and showing them the therapeutic effects of collage. This was also one of the workshops done by Katya, Syta. It was the work with UNICEF for smaller children, also that were relocated to Kiev from the east of Ukraine. And Katya told me that some of the children were so affected and mentally traumatized that a 14-year-old would behave like a 5-year-old, and like mentally it goes back. And so they needed to have some space and some art in order to open and talk about their trauma. And art therapy, I'm sure you'll have experienced this already. It really helps, and it really helps in a way when you cannot speak about it, and when you don't have the words for it, you can show it with your art. And I experienced it myself as well at my classes, where I was able to work on one of my biggest fears, and now I've come into terms with it, and now I know how to live with it, and how to just stay calm and not progress like the worst thing in my head. And art therapy really helped me with it. And this is painting therapy for children done by Oljana in her studio, her classes in the Children's Center in Kiev, which is near to the Holodomor Museum. But also here, she was working with some children that are from Kiev, but some children were, like, for example, from Mariupol or from Kherson. And it's also you can see the effect in whether it's collage or it's painting or it's theater, how it affects children, and how they are not they don't have any friends, because all of their friends are had been left in where they lived. And now they're here, they're traumatized, and they don't know how to communicate. And so those classes are important for them to have somebody to talk to and create some new friends. So these children here in those classes, they would come back for these classes again and again in order to have this community space. This is a painting therapy done by me for women. We started to receive a lot of requests, both for children therapy and for adults therapy. We started having those like women's circles for women to work on. And this workshop we had been painting just like affirmation paintings. So everybody given the little meditation before the workshop, and then we would imagine the colors or the shapes that made us feel good. And so each and everyone painted something colorful. Somebody painted the fields, somebody painted seas, somebody painted some flowers, and they would also write like some affirmation on the picture to inspire them. And it was done in collaboration with another expert, Oksana, who's a voice expert, and she also gave us a little workshop on how to work with the voice and how to like put it, made it sound nice and confident. So this was really nice. And right now, a lot of companies, like for example, IT companies, they also request call art therapy as a team building for their colleagues, and we did a couple of those, which is really very nice because you also get to come to their place, and the places of IT companies, they're usually like really nicely done, and they're creative hubs, and so they have a lot of space as well. And it's really important for us to know that this is needed for everyone, for adults and for children. So in my art therapy, I use collage as my main source, but I also like to join it with other medias, such as paintings, such as music. I like to include the music in my workshops. I like to include some meditations and movements. And one of my favorite things is aromatherapy. So I like to have work with aromas and smell of those. I started learning about it a little bit more deeper now. So each essential oil has its properties. Some help ease the stress. Some help to energize and so on. And it's really nice to see how it joins with the collage when after the people have the interaction with the smells, then how they respond to it in collage. And it's always positive, it's always a good outcome, and I'm really happy that it's working. And my other favorite thing is metaphorical associated cards. For those who doesn't know, those are like decks of cards with images, sometimes also with the text. And you pick a card and you have an image, and then you have your associations. And it can help you create some art, or it can help you to answer some of your questions or give you some insights. So it's really, really nice. And these are ones that I have, and some of my favorite ones. And I've been introduced to the metaphorical cards during my studies. And we've been shown a couple of decks, but I did not really like any of those, like visually, the images and the text. It wasn't in my personal connection. I wasn't connecting with them. So I started looking online for the cards, and I really found a little bit like those that I really liked. One of my favorite ones is a manifestation. It's the set of cards with like Ukrainian paintings by the painter Oljana. So these are like Ukrainian themed cards, and on the other side you have like a little text inside from them. So Olha Andriashko is the creator of the deck, and Olha Haidamaka is the painter of the cards. So these ones that really clicked with me, and then I felt like, wow, this is really cool and this is really deep. And I have them with me. If you would like, later we can see them closer. The other one was this Associations by Maria Plahuta. She's also an art therapist, but those are really a little bit harder to work with because the images are super weird, and sometimes it's hard to find a connection with them and see like some associations. When I given them to people, they were not really responding to it, even though they're super colorful, and I think they have a place to be. And the card, the box has also like instruction of how to work with them as well. And so, because I did not find many cards that I really liked, I decided to have my own deck, and so I created my own deck of cards. This is the collection of cards with my personal collages. And it really became really nice for people to connect, and also it's collage, the first one in collage that I have seen on the market. So I also have this one with me, and I'll show you it a little later. So yeah, so metaphorical cards are really nice thing to either start the workshop or finish it. So when you start it, it gives some people some inspiration on how to do collage, but because sometimes people come and they don't know what collage is and what should they start with and how should they do. Yeah, so this gives them insight. And also collage is a very opening technique, because painting is more, for me personally, and I also see it in a lot of people, when you're given the blank piece of paper and you're like, draw something, it's like, well, what should I draw, and how do I draw it, and what if I make a mistake, and what if like the eyes then does not look so good, and it gives you so much stress. I went to one of the sketch sessions when we were painting, and I was in so much stress because I was like, no, this is not correct, this is not right, even though it's okay to make a mistake or like do it not perfectly. And collage gives you a freedom in this way, because you start to set with images, and those images, they are connecting with you. So like, oh, this one reminds me of this, or of this and this, or you have a pattern, and you don't need to draw anything if you don't want to, and it's easier to combine, and it's easier to visualize something. And it's also very fun to work with when you have some magazines and you only have those images. So you don't have something, you cannot Google something on the internet, and you only work with what you have. And it's really nice how you can find something that is amazing, like, and it's just for you, just right here, just in this magazine. So yeah, so this is very opening and cool technique that has been useful for everybody, and I haven't seen really bad results with it yet. Hope I will not see. And one of the other cool ways of doing art therapy is land art therapy. These pictures are from our gathering with our residents at the home of one of our residents as well. It was her birthday, and she suggested that we do the land art. And so all of us together, somebody brought some things with them, some leaves, some glass, and we would create some really nice things. We would use like magazines, burn them. Somebody broke the glass, also put them on the table, on the floor. And these were done at the private property, so later everything was cleaned, so like the broken glass and everything, it was obviously cleaned but it can be also done without the glass, like especially if we're working with children, we can only use what we have on the floor, which is like rocks and leaves and some flowers, something like this. So we don't, if we're doing it in a public space, we don't damage the ground that we work with. But here, yes, we had we were able to use some other things such as paint and glass and such like this. So yeah, so this was. Yes, so in conclusion, art therapy in the context of war in Ukraine is not just the way to overcome physical trauma, but it's also an important element of social support and integration, and it helps people to find strength and overcome difficulties, feel like a part of the community, and see hope for the better future. In these difficult times, art becomes thread that binds people together, helping them to survive pain and find harmony in themselves and in the world around them. And I can share my personal story. When I was in halfway through my studies in art therapy, I received the message that my friend had died at the war, the front line, and it's obviously very traumatizing, and you're like your whole ground is not with you anymore, and then you need to like now I have to wait a few days for the funeral, and it's like you're just going out of your body, and it's just like what you can do. But the next 2 days, I had my classes in art therapy, so it was whole 2 days intensive art therapy training, and that was really that saved me and that prepared me for going into to say goodbye to my friends. So it was really like very effective, and we had been drawing, and we had been using clay as well and sand. So really, it was like I didn't know what I would do without those 2 days. How would I survive it? So this was very a good buffer for me to like brace myself and to uh, survive it and live through this. So art therapy is very important to all of us. We see it. We also are sometimes working with the veterans, with the traumatized soldiers. I personally would like to do it more. It's a little bit hard to connect with them through the organizations, but it's possible, and I think it's very much needed because they're all we are traumatized, but the soldiers are extremely traumatized. Like I can't even imagine how hard it is for them. And sometimes the general public, they might not understand uh, why, or like they might not be in context when the person on the train, for example, is going mad, but they're in civil form, civil clothes, but they were soldiers, and they have PTSD, and they have can have this episode of hysteria, and so people don't know how to react and respond to it. So one of our missions is to also learn how to communicate that and how to help people who see something like this happening in public, and to prevent them going mad in the next years of their lives. So this is that. This is the end of my speech. I thank you all for listening. I'm open to any questions, and I can also show you the metaphorical cards if you wish.
I will share with you my experience in working with a group of teenagers from Ukraine who spoke only Ukrainian, and I don't. I speak only Romanian and English. And language is an essential part for the therapeutic work. We pay attention to what we say, when we say it, and how our words are received by the person in front of us. But sometimes we don't speak the same language as the person in front of us. and not in a metaphorical sense, but literally. And language should not be a shortcoming in offering psychological help for those who need it. So my presentation includes some key points, the social context and the humanitarian crisis that developed after the beginning of war, our response, the language gap as a challenge and how the bridge was created, and two stories of change to represent the results of the project, and at the end, a short audio interview with one of the beneficiaries. So the official statistics show that after February 2022, more than 6 million people had to flee their home and find shelter as refugees. And Romania responded with speed and generosity for this unprecedented arrival of thousands of people arriving in Romania. And I will share with you a short personal story. I volunteered in the first weeks in the train station in Bucharest. And I remember when I met a little girl, she was Masha, and she was about 5 or 6 years old, and she arrived in Bucharest only with her grandmother. And it was about 10 p.m., so quite late at night. And I was there with my husband returning some clean blankets from the laundry. And she came to me and asked what my name is after she presented herself by writing her name on a board. And after that, she took my hand and invited me on a table with colored crayons. And we started to draw, the four of us. Masha, her grandmother, me, and my husband. And we didn't speak the same language, the same verbal language, but we shared the common language of creativity and symbols. And after about 45 minutes, she said that she wanted to sleep and left with her grandmother to the temporary bedrooms in the train station. And watching them living hand in hand, I had this wish or a dream for an art therapy program for young refugees. But on those days, right after the beginning of war, other needs were more important or urgent, like shelter, food, or immediate medical aid. But in October 2022, a group art therapy program for refugee children and teenagers was started in Bucharest. It was initiated by the Red Pencil Europe with the support of Hope and Homes for Children Romania as a local partner. And I was selected to be one of the art therapists in the program. So at first it was designed to be a 3 months program, but the positive feedback we received from the beneficiaries and the staff center where they stayed allowed us to ask for the Red Pencil Euro for a prolongation of the program and in the same time to introduce individual art therapy sessions, because at the beginning it was designed to have only group art therapy sessions. And the team included one supervisor, art therapist from France, and two art therapists, me and Yulia Farafanova, an art therapist from Ukraine, who lived in that time in Bucharest. So Yulia worked with the children, and I had two groups of teenagers. 10 teenagers aged between 16 and 18 years old from placement centers. And At first, I facilitated only group art therapy sessions, but starting February 2023, individual art therapy sessions were included as well. So it was a total of 18 sessions per group, 19 minutes each session weekly, and 2 sessions per beneficiary for each of the 10 teenagers that were included in the program. So the objectives were to lower the distress level and encourage the emotional resilience in a context of an uncertain future. And I aim to create an emotional safe space in which to foster emotional self regulation, resilience through self confidence, awareness of inner resources, and a sense of belonging and a sense of identity. And as I said earlier, the specificity of these groups was the language barrier, as I speak only Romanian and English. So a translator was needed for the beginning of the program for some important aspects. Explain art therapy purpose and objectives, the basic guidelines within the group, verbal instruction for the session themes, and very important, to avoid transforming the language gap into a shortcoming for the therapeutic relationship and the way they receive the art therapy activity. But the presence of another person influences the group dynamic. So after 3 weeks, I faced a situation in which the translator couldn't be present at the group. So we had somehow to manage this situation, and we used the Google Translate app, especially voice to voice. And it was an exception situation when the phone was allowed in the art therapy room. But there were some challenges. Sometimes they had low focus and lost their attention because the translation was needed and it took time and the communication was not fluid. And there were a few situations when some of the participants unconsciously tried to take advantage of the language gap and hijack the group, focusing on long conversations among each other or mocking each other or other participants who are not present and leaving me outside the group. And these challenges were managed in 2 ways. Every time recall the group rules of respect, support, and safety, and short psychoeducational interventions reflecting what feelings might have constellated inside them while working on certain themes like maybe anger or fear, and projected on another person as a defense mechanism, or just avoiding those feelings by engaging in another activity. So these were the main ways in which I handled situations when I was left um, outside the group, and they somehow took advantage of this language barrier. And where is the gap? A bridge is needed, and the bridge was created, was built on 2 pillars. One pillar was the creative process regarding methods and techniques. And the other pillar was the therapeutic relationship, and especially the therapeutic witnessing attitude and cardinal point of presence to listen beyond words, guidance in their emotional journey, and acceptance of their stories and of their somehow apparent insolence that was actually an emotional defense mechanism. And all this will be presented in the following slides. So for the first session, I proposed to the teenagers a theme that brought together the challenge, the language gap, and the value of the symbolic language. And I invited them to search inside their heart for the most beautiful word in their language and put it in an image. And because the language barrier was an important component and it was obvious for all of us, that is a part of our work. And I proposed this theme to help them discover that they can communicate out of words and I can understand their stories. And it aimed two levels. On interpersonal level, to connect with their inner world and self-identity of language, home country, and memories. And interpersonal for the therapeutic relationship, like an invitation. I invite you to allow me to know you. And family, home, and freedom were the most symbolized words. And regarding freedom, I was asking personally why freedom and not peace. And I think family and home are as very valuable in this context, considering that the teenagers were from placement centers. So these were very valuable and very important and beautiful words for them and for their stories. And regarding the word home, I just imagined for a few minutes, for a few moments, how it is to, in 2020, to know that home is a safe place. And 2 years later, you have to leave your home to save your life. So I think this is another part of their story too. And you can see here two pictures taken during the first session, and you will see the final results in the next slides. So here are four drawings created in the first session. In the top left is a painting created by a teenager girl. She was 16, and she put in the middle palenitsa. I think I pronounce it well. Is the traditional Ukrainian bread, and she was the informal leader of the group. And it is a powerful image about national identity, and she spoke with a lot of energy and love about Ukraine. And for her, Ukraine is the most beautiful word in her language. And the title is as well Ukraine. In the right is image created by a 17 years old girl. She was the kind who speaks less and expresses more. And this girl's heart beats in blue and yellow, and many of her drawings and paintings are with blue and yellow. And for her, the most beautiful word is family, and the title is home. But as you see, the other two images, not all the drawings were so bright and positive. On the left is a drawing created by a boy, and it represents two worlds. On the left is the symbol of evil, the bringing pain and death and destruction. And on the right is about strength, hope, life force, resources, the red tulip, and the eye symbol. You will see it later in other of his drawings. And there is a lot of anger and suffering and a sudden splitting. There is nothing in the middle to connect. It's like there are two images or two realities put one next to the other. And if we look on a psychodynamic lens, it's like our pieces of reality that are not integrated but lived separately. And this is how trauma looks like in the psyche. Traumatized psychic parts on one side and survival parts who are free on the other. But fortunately, in time, his images became more unified. And he invited me, regarding the title, he invited me playfully to find the title hidden in the drawing. And it is free and is written on the top with yellow, but it's a light yellow. On the bottom right is created by a teenage girl. It's before and after the beginning of war, like two realities, or a reality that was changed in a second. And initially, she didn't want to come to our therapy groups, so we agreed together that she doesn't have to work if she doesn't want to. So she sat on the sofa, or not in the circle with the others from the group. But then she joined the group and she crouched down and put a blanket. She was like in a shell, like a turtle in a shell. And she asked me not to look at the drawing until it was done. And when she started to, and when she showed the drawing, I felt a lot of force in her pain, but a force of pain and suffering. And I had the feeling that somehow unconsciously she wanted to test me if I can bear the pain she carries with her. So these two last drawings are expression of how trauma is lived, psychological split, and in the same time emotional tension. Another aspect regarding the creative process, I used the trauma treatment through art therapy protocol. Is a protocol created by an Italian art therapist, Paola Luzzato, and it's a 6-session protocol based on the 6 symptoms from PTSD and CPTSD. And you can see here the symptoms and what are the emotional needs for each of them, emotional and psychological needs for each of them. So it has 3 intervention phases with and 6 steps. And for each symptom, 6 steps, 6 therapeutic artwork themes were created. And for the time for each topic, it's not, it doesn't have to be a topic per session, but as long as the beneficiary or the client needs. So in the phase 1 is about ego strengthening, the body outline for emotions and body, symbolic expression and containment, a positive relationship from the past to reactivate a positive relationship experience. And the third theme was the hidden seed, that is about self-esteem and hope. The second phase is about working with trauma. So the sad angry child theme is about symbolic expression of trauma. And the lifeline theme is about distancing and reintegrating of trauma. And the third phase is about dealing with present life, healthy coping mechanisms, emotional resilience for daily life. These are the objectives. And the theme was about personal resources for activating personal strategies for their daily life. So here are 2 drawings. On the left, the teenage girl, she used protective colors that are the colors of the flag of Ukraine. Her body is surrounded by an organic blue circle, and her heart is protected by a yellow, a positive and warm color. And for the teenage boy, the eye symbol is present in several of his artworks, and you'll see later on another. The heart and the eye have an anatomical shape, so this makes the symbolic language even stronger. And in the pupil, in the eye, it is his reflection as like a need to be seen or to have his suffering be seen. So if the body outline was the first theme, my resources was the last one from this protocol. And for the teenage boy, faith and spiritual life are important aspects, are resources. He drew a hamsa, an open palm with an eye, that is a sacred symbol for several cultures. It's like hand of Miriam in Judaism or hand of Fatima in Islam, and it is an amulet with the role of protection of the one who wears this symbol. And regarding him, I will tell you something else because you will hear him in the audio interview. And another thing about what he did with natural materials. So he projected a mother figure on me because he needed to feel safe, heard, seen, and accepted. And only after these emotional basic needs were met, he, in the therapeutic relationship, he felt confident to share about himself in the group. At first, he was reluctant or to show or tell what he created. He even maybe destroyed his drawings or took the drawings with him, and I didn't see what he drew or the others. And for the teenage girl, her body is a resource and love is a resource as well. And for the first time, the body is represented almost completely in her drawings. And her smile is genuine. I don't think you can see this detail, but the smile is genuine. And the posture of the body is one of strength. And another aspect of the creative process is working with work with natural materials, and I really enjoyed it. And luckily, when I had the sessions with natural materials, it was autumn, so the nature was very offering with an oatmeal sheaf and leaves and fresh and dry plants and seashells and stones. And these are two artworks created by a teenage boy and a teenage girl with natural materials. And this is artwork created by a girl and represents the experience of the road that took her out of Ukraine after the beginning of war. And she didn't glue all the materials, which might be seen as a non-attachment attitude. She has an artistic sense and a good symbolic attitude that is a positive coping mechanism. And leaves, wheat, and cotton flowered wood pieces, flowers, substitute words as an expression of her inner beauty and connection with Mother Nature. And the second pillar of the bridge was the therapeutic relationship. And my work followed the guidelines outlined by Professor Ronos Papadopoulos. He is a clinical psychologist, a Jungian analyst, and has experience on working with refugees and homesickness, especially with, I think, Bosnian refugees. So instead of an active attempt to change things, a therapeutic witnessing attitude allows deep listening, which is more important than just listening to words. And I think it's an important part of any therapeutic relationship because this inner attitude helps us not go into the savior's complex that might constellate inside our psyche when working with traumatized patients. And when we are in a savior's complex, we risk having blind spots, redo the trauma triangle of victim, aggressor, and savior, come to an exhaustion of compassion, and fall into vicarious trauma, which is an indirect trauma for the ones in the helping professions. So I saw that the teenagers needed a safe space in which to be, to breathe, and emotionally process the events they experienced. So they were thus able to share in a safe space how they experienced the beginning of war, how it feels to be far from their home country, what Ukraine means for them, and how they see their future. And regarding the homesickness, the approach of nostalgic disorientation was another therapeutic aspect or direction, and it was about getting out of a symbolic limbo between the past, which tended to take over the present, a present in which they were numb, they refused to go to classes, they compulsively used the smartphones, and an uncertain future. So, regarding the results, okay, no. First, I put here a small text from the book coordinated by Renos Papadopoulos, a book about therapeutic care for refugees and no place like home. They needed to be a witness. What's most important is to believe them. The nature of this approach is not to question but to listen as a witness to their experience. Within the unconditional witnessing, refugees can begin to reconnect with the disparate parts of the traumatic experience, creating a narrative where they can begin to position themselves in a context. So, in this case, the role of the therapist is to create a safe space in which they can create the story using their experience and give it a sense and put themselves in a context. Okay. As for the results, I noticed improvements and changes on two level. In the group dynamic, it was an increased group cohesion. They started to offer mutual emotional support. Active listening developed, and the negative behaviors and reactions were reduced, and there was less criticism and gossip in the group. And on individual level, they started to plan their future rather than the initial stuck in the past. And returning to Ukraine was not seen as the only possible future. They started to have interest in taking Romanian and English language courses and in other kind of courses for personal development and maybe future professions. They started to go to classes for theater, graphics, gastronomy, cosmetics, and so on for building a new future. So, regarding the emotional bridge, in time in their artworks are not only words in Ukrainian, but also in Romanian and English. So, I translated this as a sense of complicity. Only me and he or she could understand the words and the message, and their need for a more secure space and the need for individual sessions as well. So, in the left, is an artwork created for the My Lifeline theme from the trauma treatment through art therapy protocol, and the words are only in Romanian. It is a story of a young life that went from the dark emotions of betrayal, anger, and hatred to the brighter experience of honesty, kindness, and wisdom. And for her, the past was not only about the experience of war, but also of her life history with stories of betrayal and hatred that were not revealed in the group but were told in the individual sessions. And in the right, another girl put her the resources. It's about graduating from nursing school, her friends, and projecting herself into the future with natural desire for a teenage girl, like having money and traveling and having very nice experiences. Another transformation was noticed in a girl's artworks about war. It is a painting that she made in the first session. And on the right side are represented people who are severely injured or died. And the title is Stop War. So this is the artwork he created for the session with the most beautiful word in her language. And in session 14, so after about 4 weeks, we have this. When I invited the group to make a group artwork on a large, very large piece of paper and let them choose the theme. And she took the initiative and wrote with big letters on the middle of the page, Stop War, and painted a heart that it's not, that is hurt but not broken. And then the others from the group continue to add elements, and this is the result. Um, so about the individual sessions, in the first individual session is Lata, it's a pseudonym. I asked her to represent a shape or an object that can contain the anger of an angry child. And I proposed this theme because to offer a safe space to regulate her anger, which was her dominant emotion, and give it a voice. And she had the first attempt, she didn't like the drawing, and she became frustrated and crumbled it. And after that, she drew the image below very carefully. And at the end, she said that she felt more relieved that she found an object that can allow a child to speak. And the title is Shout, is written in Romanian. And the image is a shape without a content yet. Because it has no color inside. But at that moment, it was only the need to communicate, and the words were not found yet. But it was a start. And the symbol of the bullhorn can be seen as a way to draw attention to something or be sure she's being heard. And the eraser left on the paper may represent the need to erase something painful. And in the second individual session, I asked her to write a letter to her future self. And she chose to write a letter to her future self in 10 years. And she wrote first in Romanian using Google Translate and then in Ukrainian. And when I asked her why she chose to write in both languages, she said that she wishes that in 10 years, when she reads the letter, she will know Romanian. And at the same time, she wanted me to understand what she wrote. And in the letter she wrote, in 10 years, I will have everything I desired. I have my own beauty salon. I am a very exigent hairdresser. I have the car and the house of my dreams. I have a wonderful family. I continue to follow my goals no matter what happens. I am a very strong person. I am very happy. It is a positive aspect that she wrote the letter using I, a self identity, and being able to picture herself in the future in many details, profession and relationships. And at the end, I remember that she put the letter in a beautiful envelope and took it with her, being visible emotional. And another important moment was created by Blanco. He was 17 at that time, who chose his artwork created with natural materials as a subject for a photography he did for a public exhibition in Bucharest. And he is the teenager who drew the hand with an eye you saw earlier. And this photo may be seen as a symbolic self-portrait, metaphoric story told by his soul in search of self and home. And the photography is a way in which he speaks to the world about himself. And after I saw the photo, I understood better the meaning of the hug he gave me at the exhibition opening. And for this, no words were needed. And this is what he wrote about his photo. I chose this photo because it reminds me of wheat fields in Ukraine. If you destroy all the fields, there will be no more wheat or bread, and the people will have nothing to eat. It reminds me of golden mountains and bright sunshine. It was a very beautiful sight when I traveled by bus in Ukraine. You can make anything from wheat, beer, bread, decorations. You can even use it to make fire. I'm not a poet, I'm not a writer, I can't talk much. It is better for people to look at the photo and let it speak to you. And I hope it speaks to you as well. And now you will hear Blanco. I hope the audio will work properly. And this is an interview taken at the end of the program. It's an audio interview.
На мою першу думку, мені арт-терапія допомогла з цим, тим, що я зміг себе більше відчути. На мою першу думку, мені арт-терапія допомогла з цим, тим, що я зміг себе більше відчути, навчив малювати, тому що раніше я взагалі не малював. Я почув собі нові відчуття, став краще відноситись до людей, бути добрішим, веселішим та спокійним. Дуже дякую за уроки арт-терапії. Велике дякую. На мою думку, арт-терапія відрізняється від малювання, тому що нам дають якусь тему і ми рисуємо від своєї душі. Також це таке арт-терапія відрізняється від малювання, то якщо ти щось намалював, ти можеш розповісти, про що ти малював, про що ти думаєш про це. І тебе ніхто не буде судити про це. Арт-терапия дает нам больше познания, больше узнать других, что у них было в прошлом, что они хотят, чтобы у них было в будущем. Что бы я сказал другим людям про занятия арт-терапией? Ну, то, что арт-терапия открывает в тебе новые возможности, новые силы, познание, духовность. То, что ты можешь раскрыть себя, свои секреты, которые ты давно не хотел рассказывать. Пришлось рассказать, потому что ты понимаешь, что это все равно в себе держать нельзя, потому что ты будешь только причинять боль себе этими воспоминаниями. Лучше же сказать всем, чтобы знали, почему ты грустишь, чтобы знали, из-за чего ты грустишь. Арт-терапия нам дает также умение больше научиться рисовать о том, что мы думаем, Ну и как правильно рассказать и разъяснить это.
So this program was possible with the kind contribution of my colleagues, Yulia Farofonova, the art therapist from Ukraine, Irina Kazmazilu, an art therapist and our supervisor from France, and the organizers, the Red Pencil Europe and Hope and Homes for Children, Romania. And this is for you. Thank you. Hvala. Dakuju. And vă mulțumesc in Romanian.
Hi everyone, my name is Catherine Rogers. I've been invited to speak today, which I am so excited about. I will just ask you to bear with me as I will be looking down occasionally at my timer, which I've got below me. For someone that's trained and worked in therapies for all this time, my ability to watch the clock is pretty atrocious. So please bear with me as I occasionally look down just to check that I'm not running over or at a totally different number than I think I am. Thank you so much to the organisers of this wonderful conference. I've been looking through all of the amazing things that you've been able to do in terms of workshops and hearing from different organisations. And it's so wonderful to hear all these different people being so engaged and excited about the use of collage and what it can do in people's lives and in people's situations and experiences. It's really great to see these kinds of conferences and discussions happening all over the world. I come to you from Liverpool in the United Kingdom. It is a beautiful sunny day. We've actually got some sun in the UK, which is amazing. And I'm in my office, my studio at the moment, where I work from, where I do a lot of my personal practice, but also all the administration that comes behind some of the programs and projects that I do in outreach, which I'll be talking a little bit about today. So I've been welcomed and invited to speak to you about collage in my own life, collage in the sense of my work, and also in some of the work that I've done alongside author and great collager Laurie Kanya, who's based in the US. She's written several books, and I'll speak to those as well during my time with you this morning or this evening. Where are we up to in the day? I apologise that I can't be with you in person. I'm actually, as you're listening to this, I'm working in a prison context delivering some workshops, so I can't actually be with you live and talking to you, but I'm going to hopefully be just about kind of as bumbly and English and awkward as will make it seem as if I am in the room with you. I'll try and be as natural and as slow-paced spoken as I can, so that the lecture is interesting for you to listen to. And if not, you can gaze off into the background of all these kind of fun, more interesting, colourful things that are behind me in my studio. So as you'll see on your programme, the big thing that I want to talk about today is a rediscovery of the power of collage that I've experienced in the last few years of my work and practice. So collage has been something for me since high school, so since about the age of 13, 14, and I'm 34 next week. I don't like to admit it, but I am. So I've been doing collage for a long time, about 20 years. It's been something that's accompanied me in my life, in my own well-being journey, in my own journey towards better mental health. Collage has been something that has remained steadfast, a place that I can return to, and a position which I can hold and feel safe and secure and connected to my feelings in a safe way. It's the act, as you'll have experienced in some of your other workshops, the act of ripping, tearing, creating new images, blending new things together to create an alternative reality, a different outcome. It's very inspiring and can be very exciting as an artist and as an individual to see the things that might be manifesting or swirling around your mind and your head and your experience start to be explored on the paper in ways in which you might not have expected. Images, new conclusions, new ideas, new thought processes. A lot can come in the space of making collage because we are taking things apart and reorganizing them, a process that can be really great in the way that we manage and refocus our minds. So personally, as a creative from quite a young age, my mum was very creative and sort of introduced me to that world quite early on. So by the time I was in high school, collage found me, I would say, through one of my teachers. She showed me a lot about it, and I just immediately knew this is something I need to investigate. So it's a long-term relationship for me that's actually become a very, very personal journey of rediscovering myself and processing my own feelings, etc. So the ground level of my connection to collage is long-standing. On top of that, I moved through the processes of training as an artist, going to art school, and upon finishing that degree, feel kind of disheartened, I would say, by the gallery system, by oh, my apologies, my stopwatch seems to have stopped working. There we go. Catch me off guard there. So by the time I've kind of trained as an artist, I've come out of art school, I'm a bit disillusioned by the whole thing, because I just noticed that the way in which people are expecting me to be an artist is quite a certain trajectory. It has a certain amount of steps in it, and there's a one-way system to being a good artist. And the whole process just made me feel a little uncomfortable. I wasn't sure that was the kind of artist I wanted to be. There was something about creating that helped me massively in my emotional kind of journey and landscape. And I knew that was something I needed to find a way to connect with and offer to other people. So I started to think about this process of art, people, what is it about both of those things that really matter to me? And is there some kind of job that I can do that combines them? This is where the art therapy part of my practice came about. And I trained as a psychotherapist. I worked as an art therapist for several years, and still found that the broadness of that role wasn't quite what I was looking to do. And it wasn't until I came across several books by the author Katya that I really realised that it was specifically collage and specifically people's well-being that was interesting to me. There was something incredibly fascinating about the power of the actual specific act of making collage that had upon my ability to experience and live life in a full way. And that was the thing that I wanted to help other people with. So my journey through kind of being an artist, being a therapist, and then realising that actually the act of collage itself was the thing I wanted to focus on, has been this really long and wonderful kind of unfolding of figuring out what's important and how you're going to use it as something to offer out into the world. I think a lot of artists, and especially collagists that I've spoken to, are often trying to do that. We're presenting these new realities through images in the hope of connecting to someone else that might see something, again, different in that image, and that would maybe add something different into the mix. And it's a communicative practice. It seeks to ask people into it. And I think there's something really, really special about that whole process. Yes, so as you can see, my journey with collage has been long. It's been in depth. It's continuing to this day. And it's something that I have explored in a more focused and intentional way in the last few years. So coming from the art background, the art psychotherapy work, realising it really was the collage that was the important part. I've pursued quite a lot of public commissions, different projects, different things that really focus and start with collage as its kind of entry point or its springboard, if you like. I practice now as an artist, but with a therapeutic focus. So I'm not necessarily working primarily as an art psychotherapist with the protected title. What I'm doing is I'm interested in seeking and finding projects that are well-being focused, that are therapeutic focused, and that also have a collage component, so that I'm exploring that specific space. So within that work, I spend time practicing my own collage practice, or doing my own collage practice, I should say. And that involves different exhibitions, exploring different themes, different collaborations, public and in galleries, different kinds of work in the UK and internationally. But the part of my practice that really kind of holds all of it together, all of my love of collage together, all of my passion about it together, is the work that I get to do directly with people. So my art practice is something that is explorative and playful and helps me keep connected to the beauty that collage is. And then the way that I kind of manifest that into an offering and to something that I can give and give out into the world and hopefully engage other people in the process with, is the kind of social well-being aspect to my work. So that's kind of how my business operates, if you like, my work. It's got this twofold approach. It's got this twofold approach of being about creating myself and building inspiration in order to offer something really helpful to other people as well. So 2 of the projects I'm going to talk about today in a bit more detail are going to be the work that I do have done in children's hospitals, and also, the work that I've done in the prison service over the years. I'm going to talk to each of these in a little bit more detail, offering some examples of each of those spaces, the power of collage within them, and also some of the other things that collage has engendered in those spaces, which has been really exciting. All the names that I'm going to say I have changed in order to protect people's identity. There's no, I'm not going to be able to give you the names of any of the institutions either specifically, just because, again, I'm looking for confidentiality, making sure that I'm not giving anything that would lead to you identifying different people. It's really important as a facilitator, as a creative practitioner, as a collage, whatever way in which you're working, if you're working with people in a vulnerable setting, you have to be certain that you're not in any way putting those people at risk by the way in which you talk about them or share their work in case studies. So I have been given permission also by, especially by the hospital that I've done the work in, that I'm going to speak about, to share some of a case study that has been written about one of the patients I've worked with, again, on the agreement and understanding that I don't reveal anything about the patient themselves, which I won't do. So if you hear any names and you think, oh, she's told us, don't worry, I've changed it. I've changed everything to cover that. First day of art therapy school is being a safe and professional practitioner, so don't worry about anything like that. It's all being covered in my prep. So I'm going to start by talking about the hospitals. Yes, the hospitals. So I'm going to talk specifically about a young woman. Her name is, for all intents and purposes, her name is Rachel. I'm going to be talking a bit about the work that we did on the ward. So she was a long-term patient, someone that I was able to work one-to-one with for a really long time. So this was all part of an artist residency that I did with the hospital. It came through a connection to one of the galleries in the city who did some outreach work there, and they connected us all up. And they were looking for different types of artists to bring in new and different ways of working with materials to the wards in the hospital at first, and then for a long-term piece of work with someone one-to-one. So I'm going to speak to that second portion of the residency, which was about this one-to-one work. So I'd gone in earlier in the year to do more drop-in work on the wards, and I'd taken various different activities, some of the things that I do quite regularly, which help me kind of build rapport with people and are quite a nice way to get connected, one of which is concertina bookmaking. I love sketchbooks. Any collagist I think in the world will tell you that they love sketchbooks. So what I'd do with people is take in really nice quality papers, different colours, different styles, different thicknesses, and I would help them create a concertina sketchbook. Usually quite quickly, they were ahead of me and they had their own ideas, and that's the goal really, is to help people feel inspired to take charge of the space, and to really, I'm always in the back seat as the facilitator saying, this is your space, you know, you're guiding and leading it, but sometimes people need a little bit of help getting started. Often I found on the hospital wards, people were so excited to engage in something different and new, out of the norm of the routine. They were very excited, so we were making these beautiful sketchbooks. Then I would have a ton of different materials, images, magazines, lots of which had to be bought specifically for the space because of infection control, things like that. And people would just start cutting them apart, making their own designs for the front of the book, the back of the book. And I found with a lot of the patients, people started to work through the middle as well. And it was I got quite used to this process, people engaging in the collage making, the book making, the combination. It was seemingly quite successful. Then I start doing this one-to-one work with Rachel, and she very quickly says, I don't think I want to do that. I said, oh gosh. You know, as a facilitator, sometimes we need people like this because we get very used to running things how we run them. And actually we need someone to say, that's not for me. I've got a better idea, which is literally what she said. I've got a better idea. And what she started to tell me over that initial week, whilst looking through my materials box and other things, was some of the ideas that she had. None of them were specifically, I'd like to make a painting that looks like this, I'd like to make a collaged item that looks like this, or I'd like to make a... She had images, colours, words, and people in mind. Looking back, I've really started to think about this as a kind of a collage occurring in her mind. She had all of these different components of a piece, and she wanted to investigate all of them. And that was how she explained it to me, in her very unique way. She was a wonderful character, very direct, which worked fantastically because we didn't have any time to sort of and ah about things. She was ready to go. So she looked through my materials box and she said, okay, we're going to use some of this. We're going to try some of that. And I bring a lot of mixed media with me, even though I'm primarily a collage artist, and that's often where I end up kind of leading from. Multimedia really interests me because I think it can be combined into the collage space very well. She did agree with me on that one, that there was lots of things we needed to explore. And week by week, I would go in and she'd say, Catherine, I've had an idea. Catherine, I've had an idea. And it was this process of extreme experimentation for a really long time. And when I say extreme, what I mean is she has an idea, she wanted to go through it. She wanted to see what it could be, see what it could do, see how we could work with the materials to bring these colours to life that she had in mind, bring these new creations she had in mind to life. And she would quite specifically tell me what I needed to bring with me next week in order for us to do the next stage of her idea. About halfway through our journey together, she said to me, Catherine, I think we're going to call it Cotton Candy Land. I said, oh, we're going to call what? Well, can I just specify what are we going to call Cotton Candy Land? And she said, the final piece. She looked at me like I'd lost my mind. She said, the final piece. And I went, oh, and something started to click in my mind. I said, do you mean all of these things that we've been starting to explore, all these things that we've been making, these kind of paper-based things, paint-based things, pen-based things, sculptural-based things, they're going to come together in some way? She was like, of course they are. And she started to explain to me in much more detail that all of these elements that we've been exploring separately and creating, some of which were sculptures of different creatures that combined paper, polystyrene, glue, old image, like old kind of printed images that had an old aesthetic, things that were brightly coloured cards, and we'd created these different creatures. Also, all these different colours she'd been mixing and experimenting with. She started to explain to me how they were all going to come together in this final piece. Something really spectacular, actually, that needed to be gated. She explained to me that it was a land and a world that we were making together called Cotton Candy Land, and it was going to have these big gates on the front, and it was going to have lettering, and it was going to have this colour, that colour, the other colour. These characters were going to be in it. All the characters we'd made were going to find their place in it. And she explained to me this whole world that she'd been immersed in this whole time and been letting me into piece by piece. But now she was letting me in to see the full picture. The rapport that we'd created over the season of working together now kind of granted me some access into understanding and to witnessing the more wider project. That's something that I think that collage can really do. I think as much as collage is a practice and a medium and a way of working, it's also kind of it sounds a bit strange to say, but I think collage is a state of mind, as well as all of those things. I think collage is a bringing together of things that wouldn't necessarily live together, and it's imagining something new from that combining. It's a process that can happen externally on the paper, but it's also a process that can happen up here, where we're pasting together the different things that we are imagining first in here, and then we're making a way to bring it out. And I think it's something that reminded me of why I fell in love with collage in the first place, because the practice of creating a new reality or dreaming up something that could become is powerful, and it's deeply empowering to people, especially those in a position where they are in some way, they have been limited, or they're connected to, you know, different services like hospitals because part of their life and their health isn't operating very well, or is in a state of where it's having to be healed or cared for. It's an empowering practice to then say, let's create something completely unique to you. And I'm going to trust you to guide this, and I'm going to help as best I can as the facilitator along the way. So that kind of exchange that we had, and my openness to seeing where she was going to take us. My rule generally to people I work with is, as long as we're both safe and the environment and the other people in it are safe, we can kind of do whatever we want. And I think what that gives people is the opportunity to say, okay, I want to do this. So there we were, kind of seeing this new world come to life. I often referred to her as the maestro because she knew what she wanted, and she was becoming a real expert in the things that she was practicing. And she was incredibly full of ideas and innovation. And she really took ownership of that title and called herself the maestro, because she was bringing something to life through the piecing together of all these different ideas and all these different experimentations that we'd done. It actually ended up being kind of an assemblage sculpture, I would say. So assemblage is, in the easiest way I can put it, is like a 3D collage, I suppose, often brought from found objects or things that have been altered or changed or collected, brought together in sort of a sculptural way. So it's kind of a piecing together as you would with collage, but with 3D elements. And that's what the piece became. It had paper, it had glue, it had colour, it had 3D components, it had 2D components, and it became this collection of all of these ideas that she'd always known were going to live in one final piece. And seeing her process of going from dreaming of that, experimenting with it, and then realising it, and kind of being a witness for that process alongside it, was so deeply moving to me. It really shook the way that I've started to now look at how I work with people. Because I often think I have to bring, the ideas or the starting points, especially if you're running workshops or doing sessions and spaces. And I'm very, very excited about what people can bring themselves. But actually, do I need to have even more space for people to experiment and explore their own ideas? Do I need to actually encourage that more vehemently, more powerfully? Do I need to say to people, you know what, your ideas are fantastic. Mine are a starting off point if you want them, but here's the space for you to think about what you might want to do. It was a real rediscovery of the breadth and the capacity that collage can have and does have in the way in which we work with people, in the way in which we are able to help people realise things that are in their dreams or in their imagination. And what that did for the process of working with Rachel was give her a sense of ownership, that there was a point in the week every week that she was able to bring something forth and have some control, and not in a way that was damaging or excessive, but in a way that was empowering to say, like, even amidst the difficulty and the challenge that I'm facing right now, I am able to bring something forth that is brand new and special and created from my imagination. And the piecing together of that process was a collage in itself, and the final piece was this beautiful assemblage collage as well, that she was able to keep. And if I do say so myself, we found a way to make it flat, fold downable, and and to disassemble it so that she could travel home with it as well. So the whole mechanics of it had also become a part of the art making. It was a really special journey of discovery, and something which gave her back, as her mum explained to me, as the case study was being written about this work, it gave her back a real sense of purpose and voice, because she was able to see the results of her actions and her imagination coming to life, and something was very, very powerful about that. So that process will stick with me for a long time. That piece of work will stick with me for a long time, because the beauty and the power of collage was very, very present. And I felt that we embodied it in the way that we worked together as well, as we pieced together, you know, bit by bit, all these different components of her imagination and her dreaming. It's very special. So next I'm going to spend a bit of time talking about the prison work that I've done. So since 2015, I've worked in prisons in a variety of ways, in wellbeing roles, in artistic roles, and I'm currently operating out of several prisons in the Midlands, in England, and I'm working on a programme called Art Inside that I created back in 2020. I had an idea that I thought, as the lockdowns were coming down hard, you know, in all of the UK and the world, I've thought about the populations in prisons that I'd worked with over the years and how hard this was going to come down on them, potentially not being let out of the cell at all, apart from to, you know, go for a shower every couple of days. And I just thought about the power of art making in the spaces I'd worked in prisons, and how releasing and freeing and also time consuming it could be, which could be really helpful in the midst of, you know, a pandemic that we had no clue at the time how long it was going to last. So I created this programme that took different art kits into prisons, and it piloted in London. It's currently in the Midlands, and we're working on creating opportunities for prisoners, basically, or people in prison, I should say, to connect with the arts, to be able to be more creative and to express themselves in new ways, and to learn some skills along the route, which can be very encouraging and empowering when you're in a place that can feel quite still. So it's been a programme that's developing and growing and showing some beautiful results, but I just wanted to take moments of that programme and moments of my work in prisons where I feel collage has been a really special moment and really, really empowering tool. So I do a lot of work in the workshops that I do in prison. So alongside getting good materials into them, I also do workshops. This year especially, I'm doing quite a lot of them. And I spend a lot of time taking postcards and different arts of different artists and different art movements into prisons. And we look at the different images, and we talk about what connects us to them, what we like about certain images, what we don't about others. There's a really fertile creative brain in the populations that I've met in prisons. It's different in the way that they can experience and explore it in a much more free way than I've noticed than anywhere else. I think there's a rawness to the emotion that's in prison populations, and that often comes out through the art making in quite spectacular ways. So over the years, as you can imagine, it's not easy to get scissors into prisons. I've worked in some capacity when you've been allowed one pair, or it's got to be signed in and signed out and all of these things. After years of being inside, it was last year that I finally got a grant with, I got the permission with a certain group of the guys that I had worked with before, under the supervision of, you know, various layers, to have scissors in the art session that I was running. So immediately my first thought was, this is it. We've got to have a really big collage session here. We've really got to try this, because I've done bits of collage before with different techniques around tearing and ripping and placing and reassembling, and it has worked really well. But one thing I'd noticed about this specific group that I was getting to know of men was that they're an older population, this group I was working with, and they had a real precision about the way they worked with materials. It wasn't like some of the other institutions I've worked in with younger populations and different demographics, different ages, all these different things, where the art making space could be like, you know, quite kind of wild in a great way. This particular group were very, very methodical about the way in which they approached practice and how they wanted to get better at it. Very, very calm environment, this specific place that I've been going for a long time. So I thought, this will work really well. Let me get the scissors in. Let's get all the Pritt sticks, let's get all the magazines that, you know, Obviously, all the materials when you work in prisons do have to be vetted, and you've got to check different imagery and things. So there's a whole other layer of how you can take collage practice into prisons, because you can't just pull off a load of magazines from your shelf. You've got to check that the images are in line with the security guidelines at the facility. So there's a lot to consider, but that's how committed I was, and I just knew I really needed to make collage with these guys. So as I'm explaining it, a lot of them have connections to when they were young, and art teachers maybe not always being that encouraging, or collage being something that was sort of infantile, and they'd never really seen it in a more elegant form, or that it was actually something worth investing time in. So I had to kind of win them over a bit, and I said the best way for us to get involved in this is to actually just do it, and then you'll see what the collage is all about. And about 20 minutes into the session, I just sort of stood up and I was looking around, and there was this really quiet pitter-pattering of like picking up papers and putting down magazines and chopping through things and creating piles of images. And that's what I instructed the guys to do at first. I said, just go through the magazines and the books, take your scissors and cut out images that you are sort of curious about, things that, you know, pique your interest. Just keep a pile. Then what we'll do with the pile is we'll, you know, move on to the next stage. So they're all doing this, and it's just this really zen experience. And we're in a room that's, you know, above lots of other noisy activity, and you can hear the background sounds, but something about that fades away in this lovely kind of chopping, placing, piling, all these really repetitive tasks that come with collage practice. And it was meditative in a way that I cannot explain in words. It was deeply moving that the whole room was so focused on these three actions of opening a magazine, selecting an image, cutting it out, and placing it in a pile. And one of the guys broke the silence with this really beautiful expression of just, wow. He just kept saying to me, this is dead relaxing. And I was like, yeah, it is. He was like, can I just keep cutting stuff out? He's like, I'm not sure I really want to go to the next stage today. Can I just keep doing this? And his shoulders, and you'll notice this if you ever work in prisons or is certain populations where, you know, you have to be kind of at a level of awareness all the time. I feel like a lot of guys I work with, their shoulders are up here because they're just ready. They're ready to be responsive to the environment because that's what the environment is. It can be very stressful. It is very stressful. But I just noticed the shoulders softening, the breathing sort of extending as we all kind of participated in this deep collage meditation. And I was the same. I didn't want to move through the stages either. I wanted to stay in this wonderful aura. And it just reminded me of all the times in my life where things have been, you know, challenging or worrying or difficult. And I've gone to collage practice because it does release this kind of feeling of you're doing something practically, and you can focus on that with your hands, and the brain and the mind starts to still. It's deeply powerful. And I think in the rush of life and running workshops in public spaces, and, you know, with kids in galleries, this kind of stuff, I'm often in environments where, you know, we're cutting and pasting with kind of verve and chaos, and it's exciting and wild. I don't often remember this space of collage meditation, of cutting and collecting, and how powerful that can be, and how more importantly, how regulating that can be to an internal system. And I just noticed it in the aura of all the people in the room, that there was just something deeply regulating happening in the space, and not just because we were individually focusing on collage, but because we were collectively focusing on it. The space around us was safe and was contained also. And because I was able to move around the room and ask people how they were doing, and then checking in on how they were experiencing it, there was a sense of that kind of holding and containing that comes from art therapy based work and my history in that. But the group itself was moving as one. We were cutting and collecting, and it was creating an atmosphere, really, really powerful. And it just took me aback because I remembered the power of this very simple repeated activity. And we did move on eventually to kind of using our piles of collage images to make, you know, a final arrangement. But pretty much everyone said during that session was, I wish I could just do this in the cell. I wish I could just sit here and cut out images and make different piles of different colours or different themes. And I could just do that. I think it would really help me. And I forget often in the process of making collage and being a collage artist, in that sometimes the focus can jump so quickly to the end result. What does the final artwork look like? Especially if you're working on commissions, exhibitions, this kind of thing. But there's something so deeply empowering about the process of making collage that's just as important, if not more so, than the final image. But we can get so in a world that always wants results, and in a practice that, you know, an art practice, you know, as especially if you're making money from your art career as well, you're focused on the outcome, and we forget the process. And when I say we, I mean I forgot the process. And it wasn't until I was in this room of men who were pretty skeptical about collage, but they were the ones to show me that. And I think that's the beauty of this medium and this practice, that it's generally the people that are doing it for the first time, or the ones that don't do it professionally or don't do it regularly, that teach you the most about it, because they are interacting with it from this much kind of purer, less concerned with outcome standpoint. They're just kind of trying it out. And in their process, they offer you this unbelievable gift of reminding you of the power in which collage holds, and how much we need to cling to that process and be in the aura of the making phase, as well as looking at the final piece and the outcome of making. And I think collage is a deeply effective practice for that kind of atmosphere setting and that kind of cultivating of calm. But I needed, you know, some people that had barely ever done much art, or I don't think any of them had done collage in that room specifically, apart from to cover, you know, exercise books in school. I needed them to teach me, and they taught me more about the freedom within the practice than I'd ever been able to learn from experts. And I say experts because none of us are ever experts. We're all just trying to engage with our medium more and more and more, and deeper and deeper and deeper. But there was something about working with Rachel in the hospital, working with this group of people, of men in prison, that showed me the power of the process of collage and helped me rediscover a deep and profound love of it, but also, and more importantly, respect for it, through their generosity of actually teaching me about my own practice more than I ever taught them. And I think there's something about the collage space that benefits and speaks directly to facilitators and participants alike. Neither one of us leaves the space with what we came in with or how we came in. Both of us are affected by it because collage has such an impact on the people who are engaging with it. And I wanted to share that today. I wanted to share both of those stories and spaces just to illustrate the power of what collage can do, especially in the process of making it, but also how as facilitators or educators or artists, facilitators, however you identify yourself or however you operate as a professional, don't lose sight of what you can experience yourself in that collage space. And remember that the people who are coming into that space to sort of receive from you, in a sense, you're actually inviting them to be in a safe space to explore their own worlds and their own dreams and their own imaginations. We're not trying to impart what we think on them. That's when the space can become imbalanced. We're actually holders of space, and we're holders of creative space. And what we do in that is allow people to feel free to experiment. And in that, you'll receive something even more powerful than you could ever offer yourself. You'll see the process in motion. And when that's combined with the methodical, repetitive, like collage meditation practicalities, something really beautiful happens in that space. So don't lose sight of the power of what a seemingly simple medium can do. It's unbelievable. I hope you feel encouraged by that. One thing I wanted to talk about as well that's been really helpful to me, and I alluded to it earlier, was finding other people that think and understand collage and the process of making it in the same way. I remember as kind of a few years ago, kind of starting out more as a freelancer in my own right, I found a book called Collage Care by Katya, and I read it, and it was all about how collage empowers, transforms, and helps people with their emotional landscapes and well-being. And it was like an explosion of firework went off in my mind, because I was like, oh, this person is not only interested in people and art, they're interested specifically in people, their well-being, and collage, and the combination of it is this really niche thing that I really love, and this person really loves it. It was awesome. And I will say that since writing this book, it's just been the tip of the iceberg. So Laurie has also written Collage Care, the Method, which gives specific exercises related to different kind of emotional experiences and feelings and emotions, etc. And she gives specific exercises for collage making to go alongside that. So some of the ones I love the most are, here we go, which is the one, here it is, I found it eventually. I love the one called Finding Calm. So this is all about kind of how to cultivate a sense of calm and explore it through collage making. I come back to it time and time again. There's also one about permission to play, which again is really helpful for me on an emotional level, but actually also in my private kind of professional art practice, because sometimes with commissions or with deadlines, it can be really stressful. The art can get a bit stifled when my play reduces. So I come back to this exercise, and she titles them exercise experiences because it is an exercise with, steps, but it's an experience of collage in the process of completing it. And I come back to these time and time again to help me. I would highly recommend them as a facilitator to anyone that wants to do collage with groups. I am currently undergoing the training program that Laurie has for facilitators to run these in groups, which is really exciting. It's helping me get a deeper understanding of it. But these also can be explored in a self kind of education capacity. But they're beautiful exercises, and they really they have a very specific structure which kind of helps hold the space and the routine. But I would highly recommend just looking into her work to understand the power of collage specifically when it comes to working with vulnerable groups, with people, also with your own emotional landscape, all this kind of thing. And I think it was really empowering to me to see that there was someone out there making books and books about collage, other people's collage that she'd asked for in open calls, her own beautiful collage work. I was starting to find this group of people that really understood collage and well-being together, and I highly recommend looking into her and looking into her work, because what you'll find through her website, Instagram, different things that she's written, is that this woman lives and breathes collage and is really engaged with helping other people connect with it and to benefit from its transformational capacity. She also helped with the creating of Black Collagists, which is the only book of its kind to collate all the Black Collagists into one space, or not all of them, but a lot of them. And it's a beautiful book that just shows wonderful kind of work from all different creatives. And I just feel with every project that she has, there is a deeper wanting beneath it to help people see the breadth of collage, to help people see the different groups of people that are using it, benefiting from it, creating it, expressing through it, and then also offering skills and access for people to do that themselves. As an educator, I would actually really recommend looking through Collage Care, the Method. There's also I don't have my physical copy with me right now, Collage Care, the method 2, because there was so many exercises in here. Laurie had so many more to offer, that she's got a whole other book with a whole other load of exercises, some of which are around perfectionism, which I really have found helpful because that's something I struggle with personally. I'd really recommend, as facilitators or educators, not just thinking about like what to use things for to help your groups or help your people. What are you going to do to feed yourself as well? We can often, as people that hold space, forget that we have to nurture our creative energy and nurture our creative space, because in that we become better facilitators to others anyway. But equally as important, we need to be healthy and regulated too. And these books are a really, really good way of connecting to the self, to the emotional landscape in a safe way, and through collage specifically. And what you'll find is some of the exercises actually mimic some of the things that I've learned in practice with other people. You know, there's one about kind of ripping and tearing and cutting out, creating piles, all of these method-based elements of collage. And then there's also some that are focused on how a final piece comes together, and but they're always with the intention of serving the person that's performing, you know, the collage and creating the collage and that's doing the exercise experience. It's collage with a focus on the other and supporting somebody else. And I think that's what I'd been looking for before I found her. So I would highly recommend it as a starting point, Collage Care, because it just talks about transforming emotions and life experiences with collage. What it says on the tin, it really does well. As you'll see, I've got a little do not collage on this because sometimes I get very excited and start collaging everything in my office. But this is sacred, it's special, it's the Collage Bible. And it's just absolutely full to the brim of really beautiful, wonderful work that will just empower you and help you think about the importance and capacity of collage in a different way. So I'd highly recommend this book, and I'd highly recommend this book as a starting point. And Laurie has lots of other books too, but that's the ethos behind it. So I hope today's been useful. I hope that there's been something that you can take away from this session in my sort of manic way often of presenting. I hope that you can see the passion that I have. I'm really, really excited about new work in new spaces with people using collage, because I think there's always new groups to be reached. And I'm very kind of moved by the things that I've read in this program from the people that are speaking, the places that they're working. Collage really is starting to infiltrate all these different spaces that really need creative expression. It's wonderful to be a part of that, and I hope that you all feel engaged and empowered from what you've received and heard in the last few sessions and days, and that it really helps you think about where your practice moves moving forward, but also just about remembering the simplicity and in the beauty in the act of collage making, and also that you'd find some space for that for yourself as a practitioner too, that you're serving the initial well that then becomes that helps others to receive. So thank you again for having me so much. If there's anyone's got any questions or things they'd like to, things they'd like to ask, please do reach out. I believe you can contact the people that are running the conference, and they could probably put you in touch with me. I'd be happy to chat. Anything about collage and working with people, I am here for it. So thank you again so much for having me. Appreciate it, and all the best. Take care.